traction, and just realized we couldn't operate out of there.
Right.
We needed talent, we needed the ability to speak to companies and stuff. So my startup partner and I decided to move down here. So,
What were the other cities that were in your list of?
that was actually it. My
Okay.
other partner had been in Austin before, and spent a lot of years in Austin, so that was good.
Let's do that.
So,
Yeah, interesting. So that was like a very easy
Yep.
call.
Yeah, we moved him down. I couldn't move down quite as soon because I had to spin out of my other job. So,
Right,
so
right.
he came down here before me and helped him move down and get it set up, and then I followed him down. Yeah.
And what's your startup do?
It's a it's software, but it's very boring software as far as software goes. We build a software product that
Money making stuff is boring.
well, it's not making money yet.
Yeah.
But we integrate with call centers, and we help call centers improve their customer service metrics,
Okay.
metrics.
And it's been going for a couple of years? Or?
Well, 6 years actually,
Okay.
but we
Bootstrapping?
started out a little bit different, totally bootstrapping, yeah. But we actually started out, my business partner is in the call center, has been in the call center space his entire life. He's run them, started them, sold them, that kind of thing, so he understands it really well. So that's kind of where we got the idea for that application. And we started out thinking that we actually started a call center up in northern Maine, and we actually had Google as a client and stuff, and we were going to use it as like a center of excellence to like prove out the software, but none of us had any software experience.
Oh, wow.
Call center experience.
Right.
We completely underestimated what it took to build
What that
software,
would.
so-
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
we, after about 3 years, we figured out that this just wasn't going to work, and we shut down the call center piece, decided just to focus on the software piece.
Oh, okay.
And then it did a major pivot about a year ago.
Okay.
And after gathering some learnings and understanding that waterfall is not the right way to make software either, and outsourcing is not the right way to make software either.
Right,
So,
right. Like,
so
okay,
we learned
trial and error.
it, we brought it in-house, and now we're finally starting to make some
Actually making traction, but yeah.
Exactly.
It's like the customer conversation and the development cycle are now aligned.
Exactly.
Versus-
Yeah, what an awakening moment to figure out the right way to do things. So.
Well, I think that's a lot of the thing is that we come with models around work.
I
that
wish
are-
I'd known you guys earlier.
Yeah.
Research the right way to do it before we actually started. So
Yeah,
it
but-
saved us a lot of time and money, so like I said, with the bootstrapping.
Yeah.
So it's getting a little tedious, but it's all coming around now.
It's a process where I think it's about examining your models around things, and the default models that we get about work, like in large companies, it's a totally different thing than an
That's right.
entrepreneurial thing.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and so then you're like, oh, I can't use that. And once you get that, then you start to actually,
You can't apply that.
yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
true.
It's like a scaling organization, and what they're doing to do that, it's not the discovery of
That's right.
a new business or product or service.
Absolutely right.
And 99% of people are in the scaling or
Yeah.
cookie cutter, or the model's already established, or
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey. It's been fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's
definitely made a lot of mistakes. So,
that's part of
Yeah.
the process, right?
They tell me.
That's awesome. Give you guys this link, actually.
Cool. Yeah, so take a seat. Okay. Cool. Hey man,
Hey, what's up, brother? How are you?
It's
Yeah.
good to see you.
You too. How's it going?
it's good, good. I just want to say hi for seeing what's up.
Sweet, sweet.
I'm working for Josh now.
Well,
I'm on
you're on the dark side, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I'm part of the empire. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Pirate flag flies.
Yeah.
Good to see
You're
you, man.
making moves in the media world now?
No.
That's true.
I'm just helping out with more scenes.
Cool. I love it.
I don't just do my philosophy.
Yeah. Are you around Austin a lot?
Yeah, I mean, in Austin, then I travel and I go to other cities, and So it's kind of all the above. You know?
Nice. You send out the same email, but drop you a note?
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
thing?
I do.
Yeah, let's grab coffee sometime.
No coffee for me.
What?
East side, just-in-time scheduling for drinks, or I'm doing journey sessions at Atmosphere Co-working on Fridays.
Okay.
So then that way people can like, if they just want to, hey, I've got an hour and I want to talk. So that's Fridays, and that's like, I'll send you a link. Just drop me a quick note. I'll send you a link to that. But I just don't do coffees anymore because it's just so scheduling and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm like either just in time in the evening because I'm always out, or Friday afternoons at Atmosphere.
Cool.
Are the easiest ways to.
Yeah, either one.
Perfect. Yeah, sure. And the Atmosphere is really cool spot.
Is it? Yeah, I'd love to try it.
Yeah, it's like East Side, more like the East Side vibe, and not tech. I mean, you're very like it's really like the whole art gallery scene, and so it'd be fun to. And you can just spend the half the day there.
Yeah.
Before and after.
Yeah.
He's you know. So that could be a good way to do it. Yeah, bijoy.youcanbookme.com is the URL.
Okay.
Cool. And it's like
Yeah. Oh, I can just get in there?
yeah, just pick a time. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. All right.
Trying to see if I can, coming actually, I challenge start getting accelerator.
Oh boy.
Just it's not that far away, so we are currently eligible.
Nice. Is she a startup person or like
Right, exactly, right.
Cool.
So
What are you building?
yeah, so what about you?
It's basically a platform for students to build projects.
So you help with
They do it on skateboards, sticky for desktop to start with, visualization platform where they can review your own topics.
Well, it's actually
not very many
So we actually have a different opportunity. I work with the Incubator company as well. What's up, your boss? Private yeah.
It's also like what I need to do to get everyone.
That's all right.
I started yeah, exactly. Why are you not getting this? I can explain this. So it's a funny I was doing full stuff. I was doing Lions Club, debating, captain, This is why the industry is changing.
Good to hear. See you, man. Take care.
Like I'm gonna about like watch Shakespeare or well, you know, it's like people always like to you guys, thanks for coming, but this download that
Then our 7 years, start understanding the awesome. And then I started thinking, then it was like, never wait here. This place. That's why you need to like, just like this. I go to
Hey, there's seats up here. Nosebleed seat, there's one. So if anybody wants to come up here, you might get a book. I don't know. All right. Welcome everybody. My name is Bijoy. Where's my little clicker? There it is. You guys have already started doing this, which is awesome. But let me just sort of do it again. So maybe we can just start by turning to a partner. If you've already been talking to someone, your partner, which is awesome, like your seat partner, I mean, your seatmate, and find someone you don't know, and just share, where are you on your entrepreneur journey? However you define that. We'll talk about some languaging around how we can think about the entrepreneur journey, but where are you in entrepreneurship? Are you like, I'm not even an entrepreneur, or I'm thinking about being an entrepreneur, I'm starting, I'm in the middle of we call it the valley of death, but it's horrible, it sucks. So wherever that is, just share that with your partner. Then what do you need on your journey? What's the one thing you're like, I really wish I could have this, or I need something? And then what can you offer? Like what cool things do you know, or skills or knowledge or relation? What can you offer somebody that might need some help from you? And then what are you interested in talking about here today? Because I want to make sure we cover, have a conversation as much as we can. We have a pretty large group, but as much as we can have it back and forth. So let's go with that. Find your partner. We'll spend 3 minutes on this and be fairly tight. So make sure you swap back and forth and go. Just a pause button on conversation. We're gonna have, drinks and food, wine, beer, other things later on, so just put a mental note that I know I interrupted the conversation, but I'm sure there's more goodness to be had, so we have time to do that. So what did you, just give us, if you can describe your partner, your conversational buddy, what did you learn about them in terms of these questions? So someone just tell me about the person you were just talking to. Test how good listeners you are. Yeah.
Well, this young lady here has a great entrepreneurial mind. And
What's her name?
Vismaya. Vismaya.
How do you say that?
Vismaya.
Vismaya. Cool. Awesome.
Thank you for asking. But she's got some great ideas and is looking for some mentors to, and she's in medical school here.
Oh my God.
She's
Awesome.
going into medical school.
Medical
I
school.
said medical school.
I think she's middle school. Such a slow learner. Medical school. Okay.
She's looking for mentors in this stage of her idea, which is actually very brilliant, to help freshmen as they come in to help them, connect them with mentors.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, very cool. Awesome. Do you want to tell us about them?
They have a very successful business plan, but I can tell, and it's based on for songwriters, and they provide them with all kinds of mentoring and all kinds of facilities that they need. So yeah, promotion, publishing, everything.
And this is a father-daughter team.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. And you guys
I'm the
are.
father.
Hey, we're in the whole Denver.
I'm the dinosaur.
Self-identified. What's your name?
Mike.
Mike and
Mike Light.
Glenda.
Glenda. Okay, perfect. Okay, this side of the room. Yes, please, perfect.
I just can't remember your name, I'm sorry. There you go.
What is it? What is it? We got it all here, so sorry.
Daniel.
Daniel, okay, Daniel.
This gentleman is looking to leverage AI to help with the HR process. Doing some really innovative stuff there, and he's actively looking for a data scientist.
A data scientist, okay.
Yes.
Cool, awesome. Daniel, do you want to swap it back?
Here.
Pierre here was
Pierre?
telling- Pierre, right?
Piero, yes.
Piero.
Yeah, Piero.
Cool.
He was talking about a Java platform, and he's working on. He's had a business of his own as well, but he's currently working on his Java skills, and so he's trying to be connected to this startup scene.
Cool. Are you doing them at Galvanize, or where are you doing? Are you just doing it online, the Java stuff, or?
Well, Austin Coding Academy.
Austin Coding, yeah,
I
of course.
teach there, so I'm
Oh.
looking at freelance opportunities and whatnot.
Perfect. Got it. Excellent. Thanks. Perfect. Over here.
Just tell me your name again.
Alex.
Alex is a couple of years out of school, really interested in entrepreneurship, specifically social entrepreneurship, and trying to sort of see what the next steps are. And we did three.
Nice. A threesome.
Giuseppe is experienced in building and taking over or rehabilitating, I guess, businesses in Italy and new to
I'm a
Austin.
dinosaur.
And sorry?
I am a dinosaur here.
You're a wise man is what you are. Which city?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's what they all say. All the wise men say that. The wise people. Which city in Italy are you from?
Excuse me?
Which city?
Well, I lived very close to Venice.
Venice,
Very,
okay.
Very close, yeah.
Okay.
But
Io sono italiano.
Oh, the Italians find each other. We call this.
Keep secrets.
Yes, keep secrets. Talk about. We call this serendipity, by the way. You know when this
Maybe,
happens. Yeah, that's cool. And are you did you move to
Yeah, I
Austin?
moved here a long time ago.
Okay. Okay. So old school Austin Italian.
Used to first. And
Used to first, okay.
Unfortunately.
Well, you know, we all make mistakes. You know. Did you want to tell us about
Yeah.
them?
I
Yeah.
understood that they are very smart guys. And,
Team?
No.
Yeah,
No.
both.
Oh, both of them smart. Okay.
Yeah, I speak with both of them.
Yeah.
And what I like very much is the energy. And I think this is, in any case, the first thing when you approach to be an entrepreneur, because you can have many ideas, and in this room there are surely a lot of ideas. But the way you propose yourself, it's the first winning factor.
Yeah.
In every kind of business.
Right.
And yeah, I think they are good
Communicators.
Yeah, very good. Good.
You have that going for you.
Cool.
That's
I
awesome.
can go now.
Exactly. You were done. Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, you were successful. Okay. Anybody else want to share one last one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, please.
No. You're both gonna get to go now.
Yeah, that's right. Ron, was it? Yeah, Ron is, actually has a startup that he's working on, and he's coding in Python to do software regression testing, and you're in beta, is that correct? So, and it's
Very cool. Ron, if you want to tell us about
Brad, yeah.
Brad has an MVP level call center product. Looks like it's going well. And Aaron is a website developer and has a great deal of experience in that. Is looking to see what he could do in that area.
So the techies have all clustered over here. The Italians are clustered over there. Excellent, awesome. And you were going to finish us off. Yeah.
I was. This is Yuri, and he is in ed tech. Him and his mom are actually working on this together, which I think is really cool, and apparently not super uncommon. And
In our little group here.
And they're currently looking for a co-working space. I told them about an awesome place called Capital Factory. Might be looking at that. They've currently got an MVP, and you're working on the business and marketing side. Did I get that correctly? Okay. And yeah.
And then Nathan is a developer who is kind of looking to, he's currently consulting for a company out of California, focused on insurance, but he's looking potentially to be an early stage startup, like within the first few employees potentially.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you guys. That was good. Very good. Okay, so let's get a shout out for kind of the topics that you want to cover today. I've got a set of things that I'm going to be trying to get through, but I also want to make sure that we don't miss something that maybe is something I've forgotten. So yes.
Startup attorneys.
Startup attorneys. Okay. Good.
Just recommendations.
Okay. What else?
Advisory board.
Advisory board. Say more about that. Do you mean like getting one, or what is one? What is an advisory board, or
How to effectively recruit the advisory board.
recruiting or advisory board? Okay, got it.
Maybe compensation as well.
Compensation of the advisory board.
Yeah.
Love apples. Okay, yeah.
B2C startups in Austin, feels
B2C
like
startups.
everybody wants to talk B2B or has a B2B idea for my startup.
I think that's called Silicon Valley. No, just. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. And it's interesting the dynamics of those and why they are ending up in Silicon Valley versus Austin and other places. So that's a great discussion point. Yeah.
Investors, angel investors.
Investors. Okay. Yeah. Investors. Angel. VCs.
How about valuation of a company? How much it's worth?
Valuation. It's called. Okay.
Technology needs.
What is that?
Technology needs.
Technology needs meaning.
Yeah, like developer positions or technologies that is used the most.
Oh, what's the stack of technologies that are being used now? You mean?
Yes, or what technologies like some machine learning or some backend developers, like what's really in demand.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
How can media help with tech?
Media. Yeah, we have someone. We have a member of the media scene in Austin coming here to talk to our startup scene. So this is mingling of scenes. So media scene plus tech. You're the Marco Polo of the media scene in Austin. Okay.
Entering the actual market.
Entering the actual market, not the fake one. Not mom and dad. Mom, do you think this is? Oh yeah, definitely.
The benefits of insourcing versus outsourcing development.
I think you have a lot to say about that.
I do. Yeah, I can comment on that.
Please.
We can talk later.
Okay. Back of the room. Anybody?
I'll just second the notion on the B2C startups.
So B2C startups times 2. Okay.
Developing a pricing model, kind of business plan.
Pricing model, business plan, actual market entry, pricing.
How about
There's a
developing,
great guy named Ruben Schwartz that we need to plug you into there. Yep.
how about developing like a presentation to you know, for angel investors?
Okay, so investor-based presentation.
Yeah,
Versus like customer-based or something else.
right, just yeah, investors, yeah.
Okay.
What about like pay structures for like early employees?
Pay structures for early employees. Okay, where would that go?
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage. So employees. Okay. Okay.
But intellectual property?
IP. Yeah. What about it?
Protection.
Protection. Okay. None to be had. Okay. Yeah.
Getting started with marketing.
Marketing. Okay. So actual market entry, pricing model, and then marketing here, right? Okay.
Advice for hardware startups?
Hardware startups. Okay, so tech in demand, so hardware startups. That goes back to Silicon Valley.
On IP, like avoiding using anyone else's IP?
Oh, IP conflict?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
One that's kind of a crossover on business design and investors, and that is best form for a corporation for your startup. S corp,
Oh, wow,
LLC,
okay.
versus LLC.
So that's sort of coming into a theme here in terms of best forum for startups.
And what I
IP
mean by that
protection.
is, I understand you can't give legal advice, but, you know, for example, can you do an equity raise as an S corporation, or can you do an equity raise as an LLC, or do you have to be a full-blown C corp? That kind of thing.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So the whole. What are the different types of business structures? Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. That's a good. Lots of tactical questions, some of which we'll be able to answer, and we'll just kind of go around the journey that we're on, and then see if we get back and check in with our list. Okay. Okay. So let me just start off by introducing myself. So I've had a very convoluted journey. Born in India, southern India, with a Catholic mother, Hindu father. Moved from India to Taiwan in 4th grade. Moved from Taiwan to Hong Kong in 8th grade. Went to American schools. My Chinese name is Bijoy, which is philosopher. My Indian name means victory. So it's been a very, very confusing. My American name means joy, be happy, be joy. But I guess that's probably a good place to start, because I think my journey has been really all about like, how do I be joy, and be joy, right? How do I spend my limited time on the planet to have the best experience of life that I could possibly have? And that took me down a bunch of journeys, a bunch of things, so I realized in order to do that, I've got to explore different aspects of myself. So I went on a cultural journey, a spiritual journey. I was raised Catholic, but then at college, I'm like, wait, I got to explore more. Went down that path. Moved to Austin in 1995. Worked for a tech company for 5 years. Started my own company in 2000, and then started this community called Bootstrap Austin in 2003, which is really one of the early communities. At that point, maybe we had like 3 things going on. Entrepreneur scene. We didn't have an entrepreneur scene like we've been talking about the media scene, right? It's emergent. We didn't really have an entrepreneur scene back in 2003, so we had to create it. All of us had to support each other. But that was the journey of like, how do I do the work aspect of my journey? What do I want to do in work? What is entrepreneurship? But even specifically, oh wait, there's multiple paths of entrepreneurship. What? No one told me that. Okay, interesting. I gotta go down that little rabbit hole. So for me, what I realized was this might be a good summation. This was I go visit a town in Sweden. I'll be coming up here in August, and they have a music festival and a creative festival. And part of what I do is I help cities to figure out, hey, what are you guys doing? What's your story? They go, but we want to be Austin. I'm like, no, you got to be you. You can't be us. We're already taken. So in the Stockholm subway is something called they've allowed artists and given artists the ability to take over entire subway stations. So what you should do when you go to Stockholm, one of the things to put on your list, I know you all want to go to Stockholm, is to do the night tour. So just take the subway at 9 o'clock and just ride the subway to the different stops. And then you can walk around the subway station and check out stuff. So this is the Tekniska stop in Stockholm, and it's the university stop. So it's got all kinds of things like orbs and planetary orbits, and of course an apple, right? Who's most famous for the apple? Newton. Okay, who else? Steve. And who else? Go way back. Adam. Eve, yeah, exactly, okay.
Guglielmo Tell.
What's that?
Guglielmo Tell.
Who is it? William Tell, oh yes, of course, yes.
This was the first one.
Johnny
Okay.
Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed, okay, good. So I'm gonna need your guys' help to come up with some couplets, because I've got a set of couplets so far about the apple, okay? And the name of this poem is
Adam and
Invitation.
Eva.
What's that?
Adam and Eva.
Yes, okay, good. So starting with that. Any readers here? You talk about communication. Who can stand up and read for us? I'm gonna pick someone, so. All right, good.
Reach for the apple, Eve, Isaac, and Steve. Inspire us towards new worlds to conceive. Eve's act took us forth from sheep so asleep, out of the garden to lords of our keep. Isaac did ponder orbs, apple, and moon, found the vast forces of gravity's tune. Steve was inspired, cherishing the bite. A bite for the mind, his apple took flight. What insights emerge from this treat of lores? Come on, take a bite, its fruit could be yours.
Hey, good read. And we got to do William Tell, and we got to do Johnny Appleseed, and other apple stories. But I think this is like it's a good poem to describe the sense of the journey that I think we're all potentially on. The reason to me it's the invitation is, what's your apple? What's it for you, right? I love the fact that in Apple they take a bite out of the apple and proudly display it, right? It's like, this is not an act of shame. This is an act of how humans become humans and live this incredible life that we do on planet Earth, right? So what happened to me was that I started to basically do this stuff for myself, but then people would say, this is really useful. Can you tell me more? Can we have coffee and talk about bootstrapping or this other stuff? And I'd be like, sure, that's fine. And actually that's what led to this Bootstrap Austin community, was me trying to go, I can't do like 15 lunches and 4 coffees and breakfast just talking about this stuff. So I've got to try to help people. Well, I was thinking, I'm going to introduce everybody to each other, like we just did, and then I'm going to take my beer and walk away, Okay, talk amongst you. And as the people left, they're like, no, this was great. When's the next meeting? And I'm like, no, this was the meeting, But that turned into, hey, let's all study what bootstrapping is together, and then what I became was like sort of the map maker, right? If you're going to go on a journey, it's important to have a map to know kind of where you are, so you can decide what steps you need to take. And this resulted in a bunch of different models. So we're going to kind of touch on a lot of them, but we're not able to go in depth. There's a bunch of places you guys can go online and catch up on this stuff. So this presentation will be available for you, and you can catch on links. The human fugue model is sort of the biggest model we can talk about. It starts in Italy, funnily enough. It starts with Galileo and the invention of the scientific method, democracy, entrepreneurship and capitalism, and then this fourth house of meaning. And I've really been exploring this house of meaning, where this journey model is all about how do we actually become stewards of our own meaning. The Austin equation, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about, is what's Austin? How do we understand Austin as a unique place? And what is Austin contributing to this big human story? But how do we as Austinites, number one, become Austinites, and become part of this incredible place that we're all part of? Bootstrap we talked about. Bootstrap as a path of entrepreneurship. There's really 2 primary paths of entrepreneurship. There's a funding-driven path, which Silicon Valley does, and then there's bootstrapping. There's a third path, which is, some could say is entrepreneurship, which is like, I call it craft or cookie cutter entrepreneurship, right? Think about what comes to mind if I say craft or cookie cutter entrepreneurship.
Franchising.
Franchise, right? So what's the deal with the franchise?
You gotta do what they tell you to do.
You do what they tell you to do. They have actually invented the business model already, and you're just taking that and making a copy of it, right? So this whole journey of entrepreneurship and capitalism is really about inventing new business models versus copying business models. And this is what makes entrepreneurship really difficult. And we were talking about this earlier, is most of us have models that are not about the discovery of new business models. We have models that are about joining into existing business models and scaling them out, right? When you get a job or something, you didn't invent the business model. They said, hey, do you have this skill? We need you to plug in here. We already know what we're doing, right? So that's why we needed communities, and we need places like Capital Factory, and we need a scene that's going to help entrepreneurs think about, hey, your model for how you're thinking about your journey and your path is what's going to determine your actions, right? So to be able to examine your model, go, oh, okay, interesting. I might not be thinking about that the right way. That to me is one of the biggest inhibitors that I see in terms of people succeeding on this entrepreneurial journey, it's that you haven't also taken on the journey of I have to learn, I have to change my understanding. When Joseph Campbell studied, heroes' journeys, he said a hero would set off Luke Skywalker, right, living the thing, and then Obi-Wan's like, come on, be a Jedi Knight. And that hero would go off on a journey, an adventure. But what was the end result of that adventure? It was inner transformation. What's being transformed? Their understanding, right? So that's really important, I think, in that process. MRE, which is a model of understanding your energy, your core energy, your personality, and how that operates with other people becomes really important in terms of thinking about who your teammates are, right? Your co-founder. How do you think about the model by which you find a co-founder? What makes a good co-founder, and all of that? Okay. So, Essence Mining is a friend of mine in Phoenix who's working on helping large companies steward their meetings. So that's all. That's sort of the big picture. So coming to Austin, right? Austin's kind of got a lot of press. I mean, around being the best list and the fastest that and the greatest city for entrepreneurship. And I think we're actually, by some measures, the #1 place for entrepreneurs now to start new businesses. And that's really awesome. I think that's fantastic. And that's part of what we have to do is continue to steward that all together. We all are part of that process. So let's actually think about sort of other cities, okay? Because I want us to locate that we are here in Austin, Texas. A guy named Paul Graham wrote. Do you know Y Combinator? You know Y Combinator? So when Paul was, I think he was still in Boston before he moved out to Silicon Valley. He wrote this really cool article about cities and their ambitions. That cities have an ambition, and when you go to that city, you become enrolled or become part of the ambition of the city. Okay, I just talk about it as meaning. Cities have their own meaning. They're beings, like human beings have. We have our own meaning. Cities have their own meaning. Okay, so these are some of the things that he said. If you go to Boston, it's about be smart. Right, Boston has some of the highest number of universities per capita, and it's all about smart. And if you look at like entrepreneurial ventures out of Boston, they're kind of all smart, right? Like the robot that does this stuff and the data thing and the right, like it's all like smart. It's all about like, hey, is that a really cool, complicated idea? And did you solve some complex problem? Okay, so that's coming out of the city. Berkeley said was live well. New York City. Any people lived in New York? Any folks who lived in New York? New York City said be rich. I think it's more be world class, right? If you're going to put on a play in New York, better be world class. It's the world stage. New York.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple. Ooh, gotta go. Let's work on the poem. Okay, sorry guys, nicely done. Okay, the apple, good. LA, right? Be famous, right? It's the be famous city. You go to LA, you want to become the next star, the next Brad Pitt, the next Angelina Jolie, whatever it is. DC. Who was from DC? You were from DC, right? We were just talking, be an insider, right? Be the insider. So I love this LA meets DC story. You remember when the Obama administration, when Obama was just elected, and then there was that couple that crashed the party. In one of the parties, they crashed the party, right? Remember that? Way back in the day. So from an LA perspective, total win. From a DC perspective, total fail. Right? Because you weren't an insider. They weren't important enough to be on the party list. So it's like, hey, you aren't in the know. Like that's about being in DC. You got to know who's important and get invited. But from an LA perspective, it's like, oh my God, a reality TV show. We're gonna sell a bunch of stuff, right? So different cities have a different kind of energy about what they're doing. I visited Asheville a few years ago, and they were like, oh, we're like the mini Austin. I'm like, no, you're not. You're you. And what then came out as we talked to people in Asheville was, oh, it's the be well city. 100 years ago, people went to Asheville because when they got TB, they needed to take in the airs and get all that stuff out of their lungs. That's when they went to Asheville. It has the highest number of healers of all kinds of modalities. It's more about being well than it is something else. Vegas, be your party self, be your carnal self, be your alter ego, right? The side that you can't be in society. Do you remember when Vegas a few years ago tried to change their tag? What's the tagline of Vegas?
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, because you want to party and you want to do your thing, right? So then they were like, oh, Vegas, bring your family. Remember that? How did that work out for them? Right? They're back to what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So there's something interesting about authentically being yourself. And when you are yourself, you're able to then build upon that, right? When you're not yourself, everyone kind of goes, the record starts to scratch. You're like, who is that person, right? Silicon Valley, right? Be powerful, right? Be huge, be the next big thing, right? Make sense? Resonates? Any other cities that you could think of that you maybe have lived in or experienced that are not on the list? Where it's like it's about something else?
Well, like Houston, it's be in the oil business.
Be in the oil business.
That's it. Or get out there.
Yeah. So I mean, it's almost like we've got, and what's interesting about that is that they're caught in that oil business. I think the oil was discovered in Houston, in Texas, in the 1900s. So there's interesting thing about going really back before that business model for that city took over the city. How do you go back and really find out what Houston's about?
Oil and gas.
So oil and gas, but that's an industry, you see? So that's not the meaning of Houston. So that's what's interesting about it. Okay, any others?
New Orleans.
New Orleans? That's a great
Laissez
one.
le bon temps rouler. That's
Yeah.
the city. Let the good times roll.
Let the good times roll.
That's
Come and
nice.
party.
Yeah.
So how's New Orleans different from Vegas? How would you say?
Come party in the South.
Because New Orleans,
Okay, so location.
New Orleans has older tradition, and
Yeah.
I would say New Orleans takes itself far less seriously.
Yeah.
It's grassroots versus.
Like corporate. Yeah.
Corporatized sort of, like scaled entertainment versus like ground up entertainment. There's a sense of joie de vivre, like, like the appreciation of life at the base, not like this fancy stuff that Vegas, so I had this amazing experience in Vegas. I'm not a big Vegas person, I can go there for like a day and I'm like, this is cool. And the last time I was going to a festival that my friends had invited me to in the desert. So we went back and we came down to 2 days in the desert. And I'm like, yeah, no. He's like a Burning Man person, so he's like, come for 3 days, because I've never gone to Burning Man with him. So after 2 days, I'm like, yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to society. I'm done with the camping. So we end up with going back to the MGM Grand, and this friend who was there says, hey, you got to come with me to this this art exhibit. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, I have an appointment. It's at 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I don't want to sleep in. First of all, I'm a night owl. I've been sleeping and, camping. And no, you really should come. It's like, okay, where is it? It's at the Louis Vuitton store. And I'm going, like, seriously? Gotta go to this thing, the art thing? I gotta tell an art story because Joel from the art scene is here. So we have two Marco Polos. We have Joel from the art scene and we have the media scene both represented. This is good. Austin's coming together. So I go to the, I go to this thing, we go to this thing, and you walk in, okay, and it's a 2-chamber room. And they make you take your shoes off because it's all white, and you have to put on those bunny shoes, like Intel, those Intel clean room shoes. And you walk up these stairs, and you think it's like a wall, but it's actually a door. It's like an open doorway. You walk into this chamber, and there's a second chamber, and you spend the next 10 or 15 minutes in this chamber, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, you have no idea where you are. It's really weird. It's a known effect, psychological Gansfeld rooms or something like that. James Turrell is the artist. And you just they're like, hey, there's a drop there, you should know, because some people just don't realize there's a drop and they just fall into it, right? And so we walk out of there, and I'm going, wow, I finally appreciate Vegas, the city of illusion, right? The mirage in the desert, the most number of magicians that take you into illusion. The Michael Jackson street artist who's telling you Michael Jackson. There's casinos that are going to say, hey, you can make a lot of money, And they're all illusion makers, all working together to create a giant illusion. That's very different than the New Orleans experience, right? They're not trying to transport you, oh, there's New York, oh, there's Paris. No, it isn't, right? And so after Vegas does its job, maybe for some people 1 day, some people 2 or 3 or 5 days, you're like, get me the hell out of this illusion. Right? So it actually works in this really interesting sense because we can't all just live in the illusion. But it's really fun to go and play with it. And so illusion makers are who Vegas folks are. They want to participate in creating illusions, right? So it gave me a really interesting understanding. So on this note, to understand Austin, there's going to be a new walk-in chapel. Do you guys know about this? The Blanton Museum. It's opening in the fall, and it's called Austin. And I'm going to hold that because I want to come back to it. Just remind me if we don't talk about this chapel, about how this is telling our Austin journey versus the Vegas journey, okay? All right, making sense? Okay. So So California. So what is the story of California? Because we've talked about Silicon Valley and Hollywood. When did California start?
Gold rush.
The gold rush, right? What was it? Who were they? What were they called? The gold rush folks that went to California.
49ers.
49ers. The 49ers. Right? The original 49ers were from California, went to the gold rush. And what was that about? It's about, hey, go with the clothes on your back, and you go there and you can become something. You can have wealth, instantaneous wealth, right? It's all about the speed of transformation in California, right? Amazing story about Hollywood. The untold story of Hollywood is a whole bunch of Eastern European Jews who were persecuted in Eastern Europe came to New York, came to the East Coast. They were still not treated well. Those folks all migrated to California, and those are the MGM and Warner Brothers, all the same story of persecution. Many of them never even told their own kids that they were Jewish. And then they also gave us the American dream, right? The American dream that a lot of people have today. And it was about becoming a new person. Become a new person. Your past doesn't matter. Who you want to be now, right? All right, you're that. Fantastic. And so today, how is that base material of gold has shifted, right? It's silicon in the north and silicone in the south. Okay, but the same idea is happening in California, right? That's what informs, that's the meaning of California for them, and that's what informs how they do entrepreneurship. How they approach entrepreneurship is all about that scale, right? If you go to LA, I'm going to turn you into $1 billion personal brand, right? That's what LA is about. So when they use music and film and all those other things, it's all about how do I turn this person into $1 billion brand. In the north, it's how do I use technology, because that's going to give me scale to create the biggest bang for buck, right? Okay. Now, Tejas. Tejas sounds like a Spanish word, right?
It is.
It's not.
It isn't. So it's a Caddo word. It's actually one of the Native American tribes that used to live in this area. And has anyone been to the Capitol? Have you looked up and seen some of the things on the top of the Capitol, the engraved? Okay, so where do you go to party in Texas? Like, amusement park.
Six Flags.
Six Flags of Texas. Okay, interesting. What are the Six Flags of Texas?
They're the Six Flags that have flown over the state.
Right, okay. So we start with Spain in 1519 to 1685, and then they came back again later. Then you had France, right? Anyone know the other ones? Mexico.
Confederate, Texas.
Okay, Texas was next. Okay, Confederate was, America was next. Was that right?
No, it was Texas, and then...
Okay, I've got them swapped. Okay. Yeah, so Texas, and I've got them swapped. Okay, good. So Texas. So in Texas, we say, hey, we've been on a journey. We don't want to forget our past. Bring it all. Bring your German culture. Bring your Mexican culture. Bring your Southern culture. Look at the food that we all eat in Austin, right? It's tacos. What's the national food of Austin? Tacos, barbecue, right? Kolaches. I mean, these are all disparate things that we don't want to become new people and get rid of our past. We want to bring the past forward and then go forward. For Texas, these two terminal points in the journey of America, one is California, the other one is Texas, they're actually trying to do two totally different things. And this is what's important for you to think about when you're saying, number one, where are you living? You're choosing. You can live anywhere in the 50 states. You've got to understand that those places, you're going to get caught into the journey that they're all about, whether you like it or not. And I think of my relationships, I've had many relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships, and my relationship with Austin, 22 years, is the most important, perhaps, one of my most important relationships, because my relationship with Austin is what has helped me to go on my journey. Now, it took me 7 years to figure out what I'm about to tell you about Austin, and I think what will resonate with you guys about Austin. So when you come to Austin, so we look at Texas, we look at this country, we look at California, we come to Austin. When you meet an Austinite, How many people have been here for over 10 years? Okay, so there's a good chance they're Austinites. Okay, it's a self-determined thing. It's not a time-based thing. How many people are 5 to 10 years? Okay, how many people are less than 5 years? Okay, all right, cool. Welcome. In another city, let's say you were in New York or DC, you meet someone at a bar.
What do you do?
What do you do? What do you do?
Are you useful?
Are you useful?
That's the subtext.
The subtext. A real question. Are you useful to me? Can you help me get a job in the State Department? What do you do? Okay, New York, it's also what do you do, but it's not necessarily politics, but it's, hey, what do you do in the banking industry? Or can you help me advance my career, right? Okay, what do you do? It's a very common question. And that's the easiest way to spot a visitor or a new Austinite. Okay, rule number 1, never ask someone what they do. You already have your advice. It's from Daniel Johnston, an Austin artist, and that's mural. You've got to go visit Mecca on 24th Street, 20, what is it? 3rd Street? Guadalupe is 23rd. You go for a walking tour, you'll find it. Hi, how are you? Austinites go, hey, how are you? How's it going? And you might have a conversation about the yoga session they were just in, and they're like, yeah, that caused me to think about my relationship with my mom, and that's a regular Austinite conversation. It's weird. It's weird. That's why, keep it weird. Okay, we are human beings first and foremost in Austin. We're not economic beings, we're not political beings, we're not beings from academic, we are human beings in Austin who are going on a journey. And that journey might be taking us lots of places, into deep, dark parts of our psyche, into really fun entrepreneurial journeys, into theater, into film, into art, into all these different rabbit holes. That's what makes Austin so really amazing. You're a human being here, and you're on a journey, but what is this journey for? You're not going to be famous. It's not about fame, right? It's not about be the next big thing. It's not about be an insider. What is it?
Be yourself.
Be yourself, right? Be yourself. Be yourself. Seems easy, right? Oscar Wilde, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Turns out it's much harder than you might think. Why could it be hard to be yourself?
Well, there's a persona.
As a persona, right? We were taught to socially project into the world and show up as something, okay?
Right.
We don't know who we are.
What's that?
The media tells you
The media tells you who you should be this, be that, be famous, be rich. Yeah, absolutely. Media.
Commercials and advertisements.
Advertisements, capitalism says, hey, you need all this stuff to be yourself.
You can aspire to be something different than yourself as well.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. We don't have a clue who we are.
Exactly. So it turns out, and we'll get to this at the end, as a human species, we're just beginning a journey of this discovering who we are. We've done a lot of really good work in understanding the world around us. We've done a lot of really good work in understanding the rights and processes for rights, democracy. We've done a really good job of resources, entrepreneurship, capitalism. We haven't yet conquered this fourth house, the house of meaning. But that's what we're doing here. That's what Austin is doing. It's the Pisa. Like Galileo did his experiments and gave us the scientific method, Austin is the Pisa for meaning. And you guys mentioned it earlier, right? All of these different ways of articulating who Austin is, these come from different people, right? Keep Austin Weird was an initiative started by the small business community in Austin and said, hey, keep it weird, buy local, right? Michael Barnes, who's out and about, anyone seen his column Out and About in the Statesman, or is it the Chronicle? I think Statesman. He calls Austin the open city. Come in, there's no judgment. Come as you are, and come and explore, right? Live music capital, festival city, right? These are all different things. Is there a comment? Okay. So, let's take a little detour, and let's now look at what the different paths of entrepreneurship are. We started talking about this a little bit earlier, okay? So, I mentioned craft entrepreneurship. This is actually the majority of small business in America. Walk down in the regular street and you'll see a bunch of craft businesses, right? Laundromats, doctors, lawyers, So you had already identified it. What's the key factor in craft businesses? And franchises being the most extreme example of a craft or cookie cutter business.
You gotta do, basically, stay inside the box, you gotta do what they tell you to do. Craft business, even, if you're not inventing something new, you're doing what your customers are telling you to do.
Okay, so what is that thing? What is that thing that you are copying or staying inside of?
A system.
A system, okay, perfect, great. What's another word for that in terms of business and entrepreneurship? What is that system called?
Yeah, business
Model, business model, okay, good. You're not inventing a new business model in that world. It's given to you. You can walk into a bank and say, hey, I'm gonna open a coffee shop on blah, 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 and they go, great. There's a loan, fill out the documents, da, da, da. By the way, there's a couple of seats here if you guys wanna grab a seat. I think there's one there too, right? If anyone wants to grab a seat, just make sure you're comfortable. One here and one here. So, okay, craft. So you're copying a business model. And it's really great to copy a business model because it lowers your risk, right? Now, there's still risk of misexecuting a business model. Like you do horrible customer service and you don't deliver the product, but you're not also trying to do the creation of a business model. So there's only two ways in which we invent new business models. This is obviously not it. Okay? The first one is practiced by our good friends in California, the best in the world, bar none. No one will ever touch them. And if you want to make one of those, you shouldn't move there. I'm absolutely very serious. Because what they have done is perfect this model. Now, what's happening in this funding-driven model, the VC model? What is the actual mechanism by which that works? What is the story they tell you? Like, let's go to the Silicon Valley story. What do you do? What are you supposed to do as an entrepreneur?
An IPO.
Right. Absolutely. That's the golden ticket, right?
Disrupt.
Disrupt. Okay, but this is the goal. So what she articulated was the goal, the outcome that they're all going for. IPO or sale. But IPO was like, you really did it. But sale, you sold this asset called a company. The company is actually the product of Silicon Valley. Now disrupt. Why disrupt?
Because you're basically you're creatively destroying some existing established industry.
Right. So you're trying to find a new way of aligning resources and putting technology together and serving customers that gives more efficiency to a space like the Ubers and so on and so forth, or creates an entirely new space that didn't exist. Okay, so you're an entrepreneur. What's the first thing? That's the end thing you're supposed to do. What's the first thing you're supposed to do? Ideate. Ideate. Okay. Then what?
Create an MVP.
Okay, great MVP, okay, using the Silicon Valley lingo, I like it. Lean startup, that's a Silicon Valley export, okay. Good, MVP, I think we use it here in Capital Factory. Then what?
Users.
The users, okay, not customers, mind you, users, right? No one's paying you for this stuff. Okay, then what?
Scale.
Scale, okay. Wait a second, how do I scale? You're missing a big step here.
Investors.
What's that?
Investors.
Investors.
And spend their money to get
Spend a crap load of money
all your money.
to get a bunch of users. Okay, Google, right? And for Google for 5 years, I was at Stanford when Google was getting going, right? And the Yahoo founders had just got their funding, and David Filo, Jerry Yang, what a tragic story. But anyway, so these guys were talking about their funding. Google started out of Stanford, right? Google.stanford.edu. That was the original site of the Google search engine. And what was the key inside of Google, of Larry Page and Sergey?
PageRank.
PageRank. Haha, very funny, right? Larry Page, PageRank. Where did he get the idea from?
I don't know, Walter Isaacson wrote about it.
Doesn't help us.
No.
Okay, he got it from his parents. So Larry Page's parents are academics. How do you know what the most important paper is in academia? Citation. The highly cited academic paper is the most important paper because it's saying your colleagues think your paper is important. Larry Page said, wait a second, the problem in search in the web is not that you can't index the entire web, the problem is the order of the results. But wait a second, the web is already weighted. People are already voting. How are they citing? Because when I say entrepreneurship and I point to your site, I'm saying, hey, entrepreneurship. And then you do the same thing, you got 2 votes, 3 votes, 4 votes. Oh, all we got to do is count up the votes, and present the most voted sites for that term, the top of the list. You guys can start Google now. Go ahead. That's the current site of Google. Okay. Now they're doing this for 5 years, so they've got funding and they get some funding, some VC funding. I think it was one of the founders of Sun Microsystems wrote a check to the company that you haven't incorporated, $50,000. I can't remember who that was. Anyway, they're going forward and they're doing this thing and they're blowing up and there's millions of people, millions of users that are using the site. And they're like, we have no way to make money. You know what? We don't care. Because you know what we're going to do? We're going to sell to Yahoo. Great book, John Patel, The Search, talks about this whole story. We're going to sell to Yahoo. It's going to be great. We don't have to worry about selling anything to anybody. Greatest thing that ever happened to Google, the stock market crash. The drying up of the VC, the whole backlog that happened, and all of a sudden they went, oh crap, we actually have to figure out how to become a business now. Right? And that's when they started doing AdWords. And the big problem with AdWords was, hey, how do we actually present these because these are the searchers looking for this stuff. What about the people that want to be found? They'll pay for it. But where do we put those results? Because we have this vote counter that's like very, objective. It's just counting the votes. How can we stick them in the top or the middle or the side? No. Okay, we've got to present them separately. So that became the second search engine, the paid AdWords stuff, presented at the top of the right, boom, and the money machine just started printing, right? Okay, so coming back to that idealized exit that they had, not the IPO but the sale. We're back to our startup journey in Silicon Valley. So we got an idea, we got some users, then what do we do? Because before we can scale, we need lots of cash, right? So what do we got to do now?
Fundraise.
Got to fundraise. Got to go to the VC. Okay, here's the dark secret about Silicon Valley. The VC is the prime mover. They're very good. Media, they're very good at telling the story of Mark Zuckerberg and Sergey Brin, and that's true. It's not untrue. But the real movers are venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. They are the practitioners of the entrepreneurial method of Silicon Valley. So what does a venture capitalist mean? We are all of us, it's going to be a very large partnership. We're going to start a VC, okay? Who's our customer? Who's our customer, the VC?
Startups.
What's that?
Startups.
Rich
No.
institutions.
Startups are not our customers. Okay, we're going to come back to where they are, okay.
Investors.
LPs, investors. Okay, a large hedge fund is going to say, yeah, I'll give you a couple $100 million, do that, give you back a return. How long is our VC going to last for? Is it infinite?
No.
Okay, about 10 to 12 years, somewhere around there. Give me back my money in 10 to 12 years. Times 10 or whatever, 15%, 20%, better than the market rate, better than the going rate of just putting my money in Coke and waiting for it to grow like that. That's who our customer is. So now we've closed our round, we're gonna have our champagne, this is so awesome, we're gonna get this office space at the top of the Omni. No wait, that's different. Okay, so now, what do we gotta do? What's that? We gotta get to work, people. The clock is ticking. We gotta make some calls. Oh, do we know what's gonna happen in the future? Do we, these smart VCs, know what's gonna happen? Does anybody know what's gonna happen in the future? No, we gotta make this shit up. Sorry. Oh, I think that the AI is gonna be big. That's the future. I think it's search. I think it's shared space. Whatever. We gotta make it up. And then we gotta go find some of these entrepreneurs who fit into our model. Okay, right? And what are these entrepreneurs? They're jockeys riding horses around a racetrack. They're a jockey riding a horse around a racetrack. But it's really cool because there's also like a seat. Your seat is not one of those regular seats. It's got one of these devices that can just yank you out of the horse at any time. Because these 10 horses have got to run around the racetrack, and how many are going to make it? Actually, let's say 20 horses. Let's be realistic. Maybe 30 or 40 horses. But let's call it 20. Our VC fund is going to invest in 20 horses. How many of these are going to make it and make it worth it?
One.
One. Actually, it's actually less than one. Because you know what's cool? We can start up a new fund, and that has a new 10-year cycle. And we can start up a third fund, and so it gets hard to sort of measure what's really going on. But yes, one Google. So a great book, you came and spoke here, what's the guy from PayPal, 0 to 1?
Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel, okay, Peter Thiel gets it. He understands the Silicon Valley model. His thing to his fellow investors is, don't get into a portfolio strategy with your startups. You better believe that every single one of your investments is gonna be the big one. You can't be like, well, they're kind of doing well, the team's kind of getting together, they're figuring, no. Are they gonna go from here to there? Okay, what's happened also in the meantime is the size of VC funds has gone up and up. One of the really other dark stories that hasn't been told is, how do I make money as a venture capitalist? So of course I've got to return the money in 10 years, right? Times whatever. But how do I also make money as a venture capitalist? I take a, no, I take a management fee. Kind of nice. Now my management fee is a percentage of my fund. If we get a bigger fund, we make a bigger fee. That's cool. Right? Now also, concomitant to that, the kinds of bets that need to get made to get those big giant wins has gone more and more. So all these factors mean I've got to spend, I've raised $1 billion fund. Now I've got to say, I'm going to give you, as you guys said, $50 million. I have to spend a lot of money to get my return. And I'm hoping you turn into $1 billion. So when you get into this game in Silicon Valley, which is the extreme capitalism, remember that's the gold rush, Silicon Valley, right? That's the game that's being played. It's a game of scale, it's a take no prisoners, it's jockeys get shot, or lifted off the thing. Sorry, entrepreneurs, Right? And more importantly, there's another thing, there's a gun that's attached to each horse's head. Because sometimes you gotta shoot the horse. It started, the legs didn't start working and didn't quite get there fast enough, so, So some of them will be just shot on the way out. Now, I'm not saying venture capitalists are evil at all. I'm just saying this is their reality. This is the world they live in. Imagine you're a venture capitalist, how scared would you be? Because your clock is ticking, you got to make some bets about a future you don't understand, you don't know that's going to happen, because you think it's going to go here and it freaking turns out there. Who knew that search was going to be a multi-gazillion-dollar business? No one. There were 10 search companies, if you guys remember back in the 1990s, Lycos and Alta Vista. Search was done. Let's move on to the next thing. Right? They're human beings like everybody else, so it's sort of like, oh, when something becomes a pattern, like, oh, shared rights services, that's really big. And they're like, let's get on, it's already done. Right? So, and that's part of the pattern making of humans. It's nothing to do with venture capital. They're not gods, they're just regular humans. So this is the cauldron of this model, but it really does work. But it works at a massive systemic level. Hundreds of VCs, thousands of people who go to Silicon Valley and start their company, right? Mark Zuckerberg, the quintessential, started his company in Boston. Boston's the be smart city. They're not going to build the next big thing. Let's move it to Silicon Valley, right? Let's do that and make it big. So this is the reality of their game. Now, the reason that their game works is that that's also part of their 150-year journey. That's part of the mindset of who they are and what they're doing. Okay, so now let's talk about the third path, bootstrapping. What's bootstrapping?
Know yourself.
Build a business first.
What's that?
Build a business.
Build a business first. Users might be important, but what's more important?
Sustainability.
Customers. So if someone isn't paying you, you don't have a business, right? Ultimately, no business can survive without that. Even those user-based businesses, it can sell, but ultimately they got to make a business, right? They got to find out how to monetize their stuff. Where does the story of bootstrapping come from?
It's the American dream. It's as old as it gets.
Okay, but where? Yeah, absolutely. Where does the actual story? What does it mean to bootstrap? Do you know the story? What's if you were to elongate that phrase? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
The real artist ships.
Real artist ships. Okay. Yes.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Absolutely. Okay. Good. So let's bring that back into context. Okay. So pull yourself up by your. Where did they get this story from? Actually, what's interesting is this story comes from a guy named Baron Munchausen, who lived in Prussia And here, the story is a little bit weird, because this is like classic lore, the story goes different ways. Baron Munchausen was going through a swamp. And he and his horse were riding through the swamp, and this horse starts drowning in the swamp. So Baron Munchausen says, help, help, somebody please help me. No one's there to help him. So Baron Munchausen says, well, I guess it's either death or, the swamp or something. So he looks out, looks down, and he says, maybe? And he pulls himself and his horse up by his bootstraps. Now this is the other story, which is he pulled himself up by his hair, which, but it's the same idea. The story makes no sense. How do you pull yourself up by your own, what's going on here? Why would this be a path of entrepreneurship? What's this saying to us? What's the story it's telling us, which is in sharp and direct contrast with the Silicon Valley story?
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Okay, what is powering, in Silicon Valley, what's powering the innovation?
More money.
Money. Capital is going to create more innovation, right? What's powering the innovation here?
The business.
Yourself, not quite.
The customers.
Community, not quite. Customers, solving problem, almost.
The model, the business.
The entity.
That's the end result that we're going for, not the entity.
You.
Creativity.
Creativity coming out of what?
Yourself.
What's the swamp? What is the swamp?
The market.
Limitation.
Execution.
Constraint.
Execution.
No. Execution is going to be the response to a constraint. To a swamp that you encounter unexpectedly, which will force you to execute, to invent something. You can bootstrap an airline? Do you know who bootstrapped their airline?
Southwest.
Okay. Virgin? Southwest? Okay, good. Southwest. 1967. Hey, we're going to start a new airline. They did the little napkin paper thing, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Because new legislation had opened up that make it easy to do that. And all the big airlines were like, nah, send them into court. So for the next 4 years, Herb Keller and the co-founders of Southwest had to go to court to fight for their right to fly, right? So what happens? Finally, in 1971, they keep fighting. They raise all this money. They spend all the money on the court fees. They finally walk out of the court. Can you imagine, 3 years into your business, hey, how's your business going? You started that airline, right? How many passengers you got? None. So, finally, 1971, they have this right to fly. They go, okay, oh my God, we have the right to fly. We need some planes around here. So they go to Boeing and they say, Boeing, can you please sell us some planes? They're like, Boeing's, yes, we make the planes. Come to the right place. Yeah, we just have one problem. We have $8 in our bank account. Really? And Boeing says, on any other day would have kicked you out. But today, of all days, we just made 3 737s. I shouldn't have said that. But they're lying on the field at Boeing, Love Field. The customer canceled this order. We don't want to keep these planes on the ground. So we're going to give you a hell of a deal. Do not tell anybody about it. Herb. He's writing his book later on. $1 million off the price. 80% we're going to fund it for you. All you got to do is pay us the monthly fees based on revenue. And what were those planes? 737s, as I said. What does Southwest fly today? 737s. They got a piece of their business model from a swamp, from a constraint that they didn't anticipate, that they didn't realize. So, and the story goes on, but it takes a bunch of different iterations and a bunch of different constraints. It takes another 5 to 10 years. And finally, anyone's like, oh, Southwest, yeah, low cost, point to point, 737s, no food on the plane, free seating. Why does free seating happen on Southwest? Boarding time is faster. You don't want to get that middle seat in the back, right? Free seating, right? So, but those are all things that they started to realize as they went along the journey. And then, 5 to 7 years later, they're like, oh my gosh, we finally found a business model. Ain't it great? So when someone says, you talk about here, presentation to investors, which game are we playing here? Right? Because a bootstrapper is going to say, hey, I don't have a business model yet. Because what is a business model that you sort of gone together in the room and you've whiteboarded stuff, you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be great, we're going to do this. What is that?
Idea.
Guessing.
It's a fiction.
Yeah.
It's a lie. There's nothing behind it. You just made some stuff up. And then you're going to go to a venture capitalist and go, hey, I made some stuff up. What do you think? Does this match the stuff that you made up? Yeah, it does. All right, cool, let's go. A bootstrapper says, wait a second, I got to know that my business model is only proven in the world. So once I have a business model, I'll know it. Because all of a sudden I know how to get the customer, I know how to talk to the customer, I know how to serve them, all this stuff comes together. Now when that bootstrapper goes to an investor, what happens? Here's our business model. Oh really? Did you just make this up in the room? Oh no, look at this customer, here's this story, here's what we did here. We need to scale what we're doing and take it from 1 city to 50 cities. Oh, great, sounds good, let's go. So it's not that bootstrappers are against funding, right? And it's not that funding is bad or bootstrapping is good. It's just that you have to understand that these two models are going in completely different directions. The funding model is constraining what? What is being constrained in the funding model? There's actually a constraint in the funding model.
Access to funding.
Okay, access to funding, okay, fair enough, but let's assume you've got funding. Let's say you can jump that hurdle.
How many horses?
Scrappiness.
Scrappiness?
How many horses are in the game?
How many horses are in the game, which is what? What is ticking?
Time.
Time is constrained. 5 to 7 years, I better know if I gotta shoot the horse or that horse is gonna be the big one. Or we gotta just get rid of it and sell it. Time is ticking because the fund is ticking, right? It's a time constraint. It's a resource unconstrained. Bootstrap, the exact opposite. The time unconstrained. I'm gonna work on my startup and we can keep going. As long as we're alive, we're alive. If we're dead, not dead, we're good. We're small, fine. You look at bootstraps and you see them go like this. Walmart, you know, one store for 15 years and then there's a great graphic. You watch Walmart go, you know, starting from Bentonville, Arkansas. It's just so cool because it's all proximity, close by, right? Okay, so these models are completely different. And now let's come back. Now we've had this discussion about cities and their journey. We talked about the paths of entrepreneurship. Now let's bring it all together in terms of Austin, right? One of our monikers that we have is Silicon Hills. And that's not our journey. That's not who we are. Right? It's interesting, but that's not our story. Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley. There's only one. Why are we trying to copy their story? Shouldn't. What our model tends to be is more around this. Capital Factory was bootstrapped, as Josh will tell you, right? Go bootstrap something, go through the valley of death, go and figure out your customers. You live in that constraint. Let the constraint be your guide and innovate out of the constraint. And as you do that, you will stumble into new things that you didn't realize were there. And then you can get your funding as you go, oh my gosh, we've got a business model here, right? That's sort of how we work. Now, the other thing is, what's really interesting is bootstrap founders or founders in Austin companies are stewards of the journey of that company. The meaning of that company. If you get funding for your company and that's all you do, you gotta live completely by the economics of it. But when you're bootstrapping, you can actually become a journey entrepreneur. A journey entrepreneur is someone who's gonna say, I am giving birth to another being. Me, my co-founder, or co-founders, right? And that being has life. And we have to help that being go on its journey and become a being in the world. Past when we're dead. When Steve Jobs went back to Apple, the funniest thing about Silicon Valley is that one of the greatest journey entrepreneurs lives in the heart of Silicon Valley and he beats the pants off every other company, right? But when Steve Jobs got kicked out of Apple, he didn't quite figure things out and he came back to Apple and he said, man, I gotta remind these people who Apple is. Remember that campaign that they did back in the day? Think different. They put up that poem, right, that Richard Dreyfuss read. You're not someone making boxes. That's not who I created you to be. You're a company that's gonna go and make this fusion of design and software and hardware and give something that people that can make their lives better. Do you know that me and Woz, I'm speaking like I'm Jobs, but do you know what we made when our Apple I computer was made? You had a keyboard and you had a monitor because it was human friendly, and every other competitor you would program it with knobs and switches. We were already thinking about usability and making it friendly for the user back then. Let's get back to that, guys. So he brought back the meaning. He brought back Apple's meaning, right? And I think Apple was worth like $4 billion or something like that when he went back. So stewarding meaning is something that if you bootstrap, you have a better chance of stewarding the meaning of your venture because you can control it. The minute you get an investor, they're now part of your team. In fact, they actually control things. That's why you become the jockey. That's riding their horse. So the stewardship of that meaning, that journey in entrepreneurship, is something that Austin can uniquely do and uniquely does because we're stewarding ourselves on our own journeys to become ourselves, right? If you look at how Apple makes decisions, it's really interesting, right? They were like, search? Why would we do search? That doesn't play, let Google make a lot of money on search. That's not what we do, that's not who we are. So it's interesting because meaning decisions will take you down interesting paths. There's a great guy in Louboutin, anyone know Christian Louboutin? The beautiful shoemaker with the red soles. And there's a great interview with Charlie Rose, right? And Charlie's asking him like, are you gonna go into fashion and clothing and all this stuff? And he's like, no, Charlie, no. I make the shoes, I make the shoes for the beautiful ladies. That is what I do. And the men now, but okay, shoes. He went to the can-can dance and I thought, what gift can I give these ladies? They have everything. I'm gonna give them some, I'm doing a horrible French accent, but he does it better. And Charlie's like, won't you want to expand into all these other areas? No, I want to do what I love doing. I'm opening up making these shoes. I go to Milano and I get the shoes made because they have these soft hands, he says, about the workers in Milano, right? So it's a really different thing. So a lot of what I think I'm trying to get you guys to think about as you either embark on your journey or in the middle of your journey, got to kind of think about what are you really doing this for? Do you really understand what you're trying to do? Your own personal motivations, not the story that you read about some successful entrepreneur and you're supposed to IPO and any of that. Because I'm not saying any of that's wrong or bad or good. They're all just different paths that you can take. But the self-interrogation is really, really important. What are you really doing this for? What's really motivating your entrepreneurial journey? And is it coming from the outside or is it coming from the inside? Right? And then when you think about your entrepreneurial paths from that context, then you can start to make some really interesting decisions about which path is going to suit you. Right? Which path is going to actually be rewarding to you on your journey. Because that's really, it's not just about making the money, right? It's about the experience you're having. You're spending your life, your life energy, the time that none of us have, a finite amount. You're spending that time on something that you could be doing lots of other things with your time. So an example of some of the Austin startups, and let me just end here, or let me just show you this map. You can look at this map. We have a bunch of links. All this is on SlideShare. But this is a way to think about the stages of the entrepreneurial journey, and I won't go into all that. But as you go through the stages, you're gonna have to think about what you need at each stage, right? Okay. Austin equation. So this is what's important about this is what happens in Austin is how do we go on those meaning journeys? We have experiences that we go check out, right? South by and Barton Springs, and those experiences help us to get exposed to new ideas. Then we find communities which we can join that help us to work on those problems together with whatever we're interested in, and those communities turn into scenes. This is how Austin creates the environment for people to go on the Be Yourself journey, right? And what's being shared inside of those scenes? It's your journey capital. It's the thing I asked you to share about earlier when you were doing the first conversation, about you actually have things that you know, the people that you know, the knowledge that you have, the skills, all of those things, that's your journey capital. And that can be shared with others. You might not need to monetize it, but you can share it, and that creates all kinds of goodness. So take more of a DJ approach to this whole thing, right? Try to go into the other scenes. Go check out some of the other scenes that are happening, and those will give you ideas. They will give you different ideas for stimulation and possibilities. And the cool thing is in Austin is we have so many amazing scenes now. Joel, if you want to talk about the art scene, you should talk to Joel because he's leading up one of the Austin Creative Alliance, which is one of the art stewards of the art scene in Austin. And so many amazing things happen at the art scene every week. So there's an entrepreneur scene map that you should navigate. This is online, so if you go to bit.ly.com/ATXENT scene, you can see that the scene sort of tells you all the resources Capital Factory, the incubators that are in town, the co-working spaces, the different kinds of things. And you're gonna have to navigate the scene to find the resources that you need. So that's kind of your first task as an Austin entrepreneur, is hey, how can I take advantage of the scene? You're here at this conversation, so this is a great start to that, okay?
What's the URL again?
I'll show you, it'll be on the last slide. So this is like a very old version of the map. And this is how you can approach the scene, right? Just use the scene first. Just get help. And people are totally happy to help you on your journey and get advice and counsel. And then start to contribute to the scene. There's ways that you actually can contribute to making the scene better. And then you can maybe even steward the scene. You can start something that isn't there yet, that's missing, which can be very interesting and contribute to your own journey. Capital Factory, TechRack, these things contributed to Josh and Kevin and other folks' journeys, and now they're actually, they gave a gift first, and then it became something viable, right? Okay, let me just finish with this slide. So these are the links. Shoot, I didn't put okay, this is the one link, because if you go here, I'm going to upload this current version of this slide presentation. All the links are active. So if you just go to SlideShare, I'm doing sort of like not office hours, but journey sessions at Atmosphere Co-work on Fridays if you want to get an hour of time. I don't schedule outside of that just because I'm always out and about, and you can meet me for a drink somewhere on the east side. Human Fugue gives you more explanation of that map. bootstrapaustin.org/map tells you about the bootstrap journey and understanding the stages of that journey. There's some videos you can watch to kind of understand that better. This journey thing is about the journey, the meaning journey that we're on. My book is Human Fabric. I've got one for whoever wants it. And okay, so we actually have negative time, but let me come back to this. But before we come back to this, questions, thoughts, reactions. We've kind of gone through a lot in a very short amount of time. Has this been helpful?
Yeah, inspiring.
In a way that maybe you didn't expect to be helpful? Okay. Thoughts, reactions, or questions, or comments, or anything?
That was just really nice to help me refocus on like starting something really new right now. So
yeah,
there's like discussions in our group just about like whether we need to develop a business plan now, business model canvas now,
right?
How to start intelligently. Do we need to talk to investors, mentors? What? And I really like the idea of bootstrapping because it's about kind of finding your business through yourself.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Good. So another pathway maybe opened up for you.
Yeah.
In that conversation. Good.
Clarity.
Fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Other? Yeah.
So a lot of these things, I feel like are approached with sort of a Silicon Valley mindset. So I had no idea about that distinction between bootstrap and the VC-driven mentality. So really good.
Good. Okay. So the distinctions that there are different paths of entrepreneurship, and they're motivated by different things. Not bad or good, right? Okay. Good. Other thoughts, comments, questions? Yep.
My startup is bootstrapped, and I'm finding myself. I've got customers, but somewhere in that valley of sorrow, whatever you call it.
I like that.
Where would you point people that have launched and aren't yet ready to scale? That are kind of, it's like it gets harder to do that journey on your own.
Yes. So unfortunately, one of the things that happened was we had this Bootstrap Austin community, which we ran for 10 years, and it was one of those foundational communities for what now everybody thinks of as the entrepreneur scene. And it was very run by fellow bootstrappers, and people would lead things. And then we did this entrepreneur scene stuff, and I went, okay, I've got to sort of steward the entrepreneur scene. So Bootstrap doesn't convene anymore as a community, and we pointed people to all the other communities that are in there. And maybe that'll reconstitute itself at some point. But I think that what you've identified and what we figured out was having community is really important. So one of the most effective things we did was we created something called boot boards. Okay, find 5 or 6 or 6 to 8. There's actually you can do it by yourself, or there's some like Creatives Meet Business is a really cool Austin startup that's helping with formulating boards for people. But you can just create your own board, right? So create hey, we're 5 or 6 entrepreneurs. Let's meet once a month and take out half a day or all day or half a day and just talk about our businesses and give each other advice. We had boot boards that we started in 2006 that are still going. Incredible, right? So one of the most, you absolutely pointed out that community is super important, and a fellowship of folks is important. So obviously all these things in the scene are communities that you can join. But a boot board sort of takes it to that next level where as that conversation accumulates over the months and the years, things really start to gel, and you know each other's story and the journey and all that kind of thing. So I would say generate that in the form of a boot board. We talked about a mentor and advisor, but I mean that's a different kind of thing. Fellow bootstrappers, fellow people, and bring those folks together and say, hey, let's go and just take time to step back, give each other support, all that.
Thanks.
Good.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When you're asking people, when you're having to tell your story, how important is having that in a non-disclosure?
Do not waste your time on that stuff. Yeah. Ideas, we live in a world today, and this is true back in the day, even where ideas are irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. It's all execution. It's all finding customers. Don't waste your time trying to go, I protect my IP, and no one will sign a non-disclosure with you. I'll never sign a non-disclosure. And certainly a VC, if you're going that path, will never sign a non-disclosure. Like, I see so many ideas, and it doesn't matter, right? You have nothing to protect. And so, your business model, your execution is the thing that you're ultimately protecting. And technology is one input potentially into that. But when you look at business models, and you look at each company's business model, some of them over time later on start developing IP and spend getting patents, and that becomes a different kind of game. But if you're at this early stage, that can be a real detour. Oh, let's go get a patent. That's not easy. That's going to be thousands of dollars. That's going to be about, you know how many mousetrap patents are submitted every year? Look it up. Right? So basically the idea is share with everybody. You need to get everybody to help you. So the bootstrapping thing is in part, I think, misdefined as relying on me. No, it's rely on everything. Rely on all your journey capital. Who can help you? So your ability to tell everybody what you're doing, get them excited, that's going to be more important. If you're inhibiting that conversation and with a non-disclosure, and then I can't, how can I help you? I don't want to, sorry, I got too many other things to do. Right? So that's just a perspective on that.
If your business is a winner-takes-all, it's like a peer-to-peer marketplace, can you get it started in Austin, and how far can you take it before you have to go to the Silicon Valley?
I'm sure you could get it started in Austin, and I say go where the gold is if that's what you're doing. You look at Austin. You talked about the B2B versus B2C. If you truly believe that, which I don't think is the correct conception of some of these things, because you look at things that you can claim as winner-take-alls, and then someone comes in and creates a new space. But let's just assume for a second that you're winner-take-all. Then you got to get there fast. Clear, that's the idea. There's only going to be one Lyft and one Uber, or one Airbnb and one whatever. So in that case, go where the scale is, right? Go to Mecca if that's what you're going to be doing, right? Things are going to be more organic here. Things are going to be like, hey, let's put somebody in it. Let's see how we can scale it. We'd like to have an exit, but it's a different kind of mentality. Yeah.
How do you feed your kids while you're bootstrapping?
I'm just a gigolo. So I think of that as working capital. I think of that journey capital, working capital, and bootstrap capital. Bootstrap capital is what you're building toward, that business model that really works, and then that thing becomes an asset and you have revenue. In the meantime, you need some working capital. So get married, really, no. So it's mitigating risk. So a lot of this mythology, like jump off the cliff, and there's a lot of problems with that. You got to be really smart about stuff. You got to reduce your burn. You don't necessarily need to live in a big house. Why do you need to drive that Mercedes? All that stuff that you think you have to have, turns out you don't, right? So it's two equations. Where can you go make money where you can you can make money? Oh yeah, I put up my shingle and I make some money. If you can do it adjacent to the space you're in, even better. Some of the great product companies started off as consultancies, right? Hey, can we work with you and help you? Sure, we have an hourly rate or whatever. Great. And then you're like, we'll deploy it. We'll own our technology. So there's lots of ways, but you got to think about working capital as a thing, which is I'm going to have this cost happening every month, and I'm going to reduce that number to as little as I possibly can, and then either get my spouse to take care of that and give me some time so I can go figure that out, or I've got to go and do something that's going to make that working capital work. Invariably, what's really interesting is that tends to then come back and contribute back to the swamp, to your eventual business model. Yeah.
So, are you saying that we should bootstrap in Austin and then move to Silicon Valley?
Sure. Why not? No. Seriously. We're going to build the companies that we're going to build, right? We're going to become Austin, and we're going to become more Austin. We're building these journey companies here. if you think that Silicon Valley is the place you need to go, by all means, right? Go try it. Or we'll be here, don't worry. You'll realize very quickly it's a jungle out there, right? The thing that Silicon Valley talks about is the 5 people that succeed. And they don't talk about the below, the psychological problems, the suicide rates. I mean, Silicon Valley is eating itself alive because it's building, look at what's happening to Uber right now. They're building unsustainable companies that grow too fast, that destroy human beings. That's the problem. Technology doesn't give a crap about you as a human being. It says grind it in, grind it out, kill you, it just doesn't matter. So it's not about your journey, it's not about your growth, it's not about Travis is out, maybe he's out fully, right? Jockey's out, all of that. So you have to really get clear on the reality of what that is, not the sales pitch of Silicon Valley. And I think that sales pitch is like, I can have an amazing journey and go and build something great and versus like, I gotta do 5 of these to succeed, right? That's the real math. You gotta do 5 of them, probably 3 to 5, before you IPO and be successful. Because a bunch of them will fail. You look at the numbers. So I think you have to decide that. Now what's really interesting is if you bootstrap something and you got it to a business model, people will come and give you capital no matter where you are.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
That's what's cool, right? All my friends who bootstrap their businesses and now they have a multi-million-dollar business and it's like, hey, I'm coming in, I'm flying to Austin. Can I come and talk to you about your business? VCs, different VCs, investors of all kinds come and want to participate in that. So you can start to dictate the rules. The thing becomes control, right? If you have started off and you said, hey, please give me money so I can build a business. Rightfully so, the VC goes, well, good, I control it then. You haven't built anything. But the more you go down to that viable business model, you are in the driver's seat. You remain in control. And then you can be the steward. You can decide on what terms, when, how. Yeah, you're going to get 30% of my company. Sorry, you don't have board seats. I mean, all of those things change. But over here, you have no leverage. Rightfully so. Last comment, thoughts? I think some of these are very tactical questions. There's a lot of like places where you can go and start looking and asking for help in terms of the lawyer stuff, the IP stuff. I think an advisory board it could be important, but nothing matters more than customers. You know, just get focused, get clear, and start doing the actual work. So this is about a model for trying to understand yourself, your energy, and other people. So who's dealing with some co-founders? Who's got co-founders? Who wants this book? All right, you go. All right. It doesn't matter about the model or not, but it's about understanding that there's different energies. A business needs to sell, and a business needs to build. That's it. Make it real simple. Who's going to sell? Who's going to build? And that's you got your nucleus of your team, right? And the energies are very different in that kind of team. A Steve Jobs versus a Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak doesn't want to talk to customers. He just wants to build that next great thing. Steve Jobs sold the first deal of 50 Apple computers to the Byte Shop, and he told Woz, hey, quit your job at HP. Let's go build this company. Woz just wanted to have HP make his invention. And he'd gone up 3 levels at HP, and they were like, nah, we don't want to do it. And Jobs went barefoot. He'd just come back from India on a spiritual journey, and went to walk into the Byte Shop, and he's like, we got an order for 50, let's go. Right? Then they sold their calculator and their VW bus, and that was the startup capital for Apple. Right? So I think that's a really important dynamic to really understand. Keep it lean. Like a lot of this stuff is, I need this, I need that. No, you keep it real tight. Keep the ship tight, and let that crucible do the magic. Right? All right, guys. I think drinks. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Vicino Venezia? Dove?
Romano di dove?
Veramente i miei di Puglia. No, di Puglia. Io sono nato a Roma.
Io sono innamorato di Roma, ho fatto di tutto per andare lì, ma non ho trovato ho lavorato per gli anni in base alle istituzioni, sì, che io li facevo per studenti, problemi, sono innamorato della città,
Sì, sì, no, Roma c'è una magia speciale. Ma invece a me è piaciuto molto.
Are you our friends? So, I can send you a link to pick a time. I just do like on the east side. The bijoy.youcanbookme.com, and then you do that. Otherwise it's just pay me out or something. Do a schedule. That'll be great. I look forward to it. All right, thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for the comments. Hey, how are you? How are you?
That's a hard one.
It really was, and I was like, wow. So I've already started, so okay.
Yeah.
When I'm working on and so I need to find developers. I want to do the bootstrap, like I always do.
Yeah.
And so I just maybe I use AI. So I mean, I have to somehow get myself into that community.
Yeah. So do you know Damon Clinkscales? So look up Damon Clinkscales, and then they've got like, he does a bunch of different developer meetups.
Really?
Yeah, he does a tech breakfast that happens. I think that's on the entrepreneur scene map somewhere.